got a question here from Scott who says he's wondering, should or do most jiu-jitsu academies have a curriculum that they use? Like, i.e., this person should know this, this, and this for the next stripe or belt. And he's kind of wondering what my ideas are or thoughts are on a curriculum. And so first off, Scott, thanks for the question, brother. And so I personally have like a love-hate relationship with a curriculum. I use one as a guide, which I'll talk about in a second. But again, I also don't like them as much in a lot of cases, and I'll share why. So to kind of start this off, one of the conversations that I had that really stuck with me as a white belt was I was speaking to a black belt at the time. He was a friend of my coach's at the time, and the conversation he told me, he's like, one of the really cool signs or really good signs that you'll see at a good gym is that you'll have a gym full of people who have different styles. He said everybody's kind of gone down their own path a little bit, and you have different styles. You typically have sort of a feeling of a certain gym. Everybody has kind of some similarities amongst them, but overall there's a different style amongst these people. And I asked him why that was important. He said because that means that the coach is secure enough in himself to allow people to just kind of go in their own direction. And it didn't really make sense to me at the time, but then I started training at other gyms and I started to see what he meant. Because some gyms you'd go to and you would hear sort of things like where people weren't allowed to just maybe read a jiu-jitsu book or get a DVD set and just try stuff out, right? They were like, that was bad. You weren't supposed to do that, right? Like you weren't supposed to just try out a YouTube move or try out a DVD series that you saw. You're supposed to stick to just what was shown to you. Or in some cases, I've been to gyms where I would roll with people and everybody rolled the same because the curriculum had been imposed on every single person. And when you rolled with them, it was like rolling with robots, right? Everybody's doing the same stuff because the curriculum is so rigid that people, instead of being able to find their own style and their own techniques at work along with what's in the curriculum, instead they're just stuck to the curriculum. So when I became a black belt, and I was starting to sort of hammer out my own theories and sort of whys and like how I was going to do things, one of the things that I didn't want to do was become too strict with the curriculum that I became, again, too rigid with my teaching with my students. But at the same time, I did want to take some of the good parts of a curriculum, right? And sort of, we'll get into that. So the good parts about a curriculum, what is good about a curriculum? One, it can be great for quality control, right? Like you want to make sure that you have some baseline standard of what people are supposed to know. So as like a white belt, you don't want to promote a person from white to blue belt who doesn't know how to get out of a darn headlock, right? Weird situation that happened actually at this gym before was we had this guy come out who was a purple belt and he didn't know how to do like really basic full guard sweeps, like scissor sweeps and stuff like that, which was really bizarre. Like he was like trying to piece them together. It wasn't like he was like a fake purple belt. He was like legit. Like you'd roll with him and he had a great spider guard. But when he would go to full guard, you're like, all right guys, like practice a particular sweep from full guard. He was like, it wasn't, he didn't know how to do it. I was so surprised. And so I wanted to make sure that I got the quality control aspect of a curriculum. So we use that. Like for instance, with our white belts, we have these big white belt classes where we'll have several coaches coaching and we'll have all our white belts come in at different ranks and we go over the techniques with them and we sort of see where they're at. And we also, basically sort of, we're able to grade them amongst their peers. Because again, I want them to make sure they know these basic techniques, but I also want to see, a lot of other factors that go into the promotion. The other thing is that you make sure you cover all the areas. And so with the teaching curriculum or schedule that we have, we typically have a 12 to 14 week period that cycles through, and that typically makes sure that we cover all our bases with the teaching. Now sometimes, for instance, if we go to a tournament and maybe there was a problem that was happening all over the place with all of our competitors, then we need to work on that. And so when we come back, we'll kind of we'll break off the cycle a little bit and we'll focus on that position for a bit. Or maybe during rolling in class or during training in class, I'll see that people, like look really good from a particular position, so I'll kind of let that position go and move on to something else in the cycle, that kind of thing. So again, it's very flexible still. I like flexible. Now, the bad parts about a curriculum that I don't like, and I don't like to do things, is one is I don't like the rigidity, right? Being too rigid where, again, you're put into this little box. Because I'm kind of out there about things sometimes. I'm different, right? And so I like the idea of this art, the art form, the martial art. I see jiu-jitsu as an art, and again, I've talked about this before, but the mat, that's our canvas, right? And our moves that we do, all our techniques, those are the brush strokes. Again, what kind of art do you want to create? What do you want people to see? What do you want your style to look like? Because again, you have the ability to sort of go where you want to go. Right? Again, that's one of the things as a brown belt, I was a big guy and I was really heavy and I was pressury and I was like, man, I want to move fast. And so I developed the ability with drills and technique and training to move fast and move quickly, and I was able to do that. I wanted my art form, my expression of the art to look like a certain way. And again, that's one of the things I think is very important, is allowing people to kind of go in their own direction. And I think if you get too rigid with the curriculum, you can sort of stifle that. And then the last thing, and this is probably the most important thing, the most important reason why I don't have a really set curriculum, a hard curriculum where basically every belt, this is what you do for this stripe, this is what you do for this stripe, this is what you do for the belt, is because I think when you take people and like, again, you make jiu-jitsu simply about memorization and demonstration of techniques, instead of just finding the love for it, right? Finding the reason that you want to get up in the morning and train. That's what I think is so important, right? It's not about, hey, memorize these techniques and get your next belt. It should be about, you know what, I really enjoy being in the room with everyone else training and just being connected to all these other human beings. I really enjoy, you know, the challenge of it, taking these new techniques and then putting them through the feedback loop and seeing how well I did in class. I really enjoy being exhausted after training, right? I really love all these things that are in the here and the now, because that's the secret. If you want to talk about it, one of the secrets you learn about from anything, not just jiu-jitsu, anything that's tough, that takes you a long time to be good at, you have to find a reason that's intrinsic, right? It's in you, that has nothing to do with outward motivation, that you find inside of you that makes you want to do it. Because that's the secret. Because then if you can do that, if you can find a reason where, again, you're going to have those outward motivations and those work as guides, and they're kind of like the rudder, you just follow them, right? But you got to find the thing that you love in the here and the now. If you can find that for something, that's game changing, because then you'll find a reason to do it. And with jiu-jitsu, think about what you're doing. You're subjecting yourself to bodily harm. You're taking the time out of your day to train. You're paying money for gym dues. You know, there are all these factors. You have people sweating all over you trying to put you in a chokehold, right? And again, I think that if you're focused simply on hey, I need to make sure I memorize my techniques, I think that you lose the magic of what this thing can give to someone, which is the ability to learn how to grind and the ability to learn how to just do something for no other reason other than you like doing it. I think it's really important. I think that if you become too focused on the curriculum and learning all these different techniques and being able to demonstrate these techniques, I think that you lose that and you lose sight of that thing. So that's why we kind of still do it the old way. We have a curriculum that we use as quality control, but when I say the old way, I mean we basically say, listen, it's time for you to be promoted. And again, I just to sort of share with you guys, I don't promote people by myself. Typically, I work with my coaches, and I say, like, again, because a lot of my purple belts, my brown belts, my black belts, right, they're my eyes on the mat sometimes. Sometimes I'm not there all the time, right, and sometimes I don't roll with everybody all the time. So I'll talk with my coaches, especially like Chad. I'm like, hey, who do you see right now? How are they looking? Right, cool. Well, I'll keep an eye on them. I'll make sure that the bases are covered as far as this, or I'll make sure we'll see how they look. But again, there's a lot that goes into it that has nothing to do with the curriculum. And I will say this, last thing I'll end on, is that if you are a coach that's like far away, you might use a curriculum as a quality control, and that's probably very important. But other than that, I think for me, like being in the gym, I don't like them that much. So anyway, done talking. It's a long video. Thank you for the question, Scott. I'll talk to you guys next time.